Thank you for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Veronica Danik Roy. Today on the program, senators donate more than 1,200 bags of rice to civil servants in Kogi State. More confusion as Presidency accuses PDP of bringing Maina to Nigeria. And later on the program, Buhari signs North-East Development Commission bill into law. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Martin Soloja, and Adekunle Yusuf. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show. Journalist Hangout starts now.
This is Abdullahi Umar Ganouji, the governor of Kano State. I do watch journalists hang out. I don't miss it. I ask you, please don't miss it. Thank you.
Well, Governor Yaya Bello of Kogi State deserves an award for his achievements. In less than 2 years, the governor has shown an unrivaled managerial ingenuity that has catapulted a booming state into a desolate island where some of the poorest Nigerians live today. He deserves an award for creatively painting Kogi State in bright colors of failure, hunger, and sickening backwardness. He deserves an award for doing an excellent job of turning a once vibrant civil service to a gathering of destitutes. Kogi workers are hungry, broke, broken, and sick. Some couldn't stand the mess their lives have become and resorted to suicide. But as this humanitarian tragedy soars, the governor sticks to his jejune and rather perplexing rhetoric of routinely accusing workers of playing politics with the situation. Today, workers look on to President Buhari and eminent Nigerians to provide relief materials for them. Reports say some serving senators have risen to the occasion. They donated more than 1,200 bags of rice to them. How does Governor Bello sleep at night, knowing the pains that his flip-flopping policy is inflicting on the people? I'll start with you, Jude. How terrible has it gotten that senators now have to, coming to salvage the situation, sort of?
Yes, you see, before now, I think on September 27th, the NLC, as well as the Trade Union Congress in Kogi State, urged President Muhammadu Buhari to send NEMA officials down to Kogi State without delay and come and treat the civil servants like destitute in their country, like refugees, like destitute. At that time, it will look like a joke to people that look, a state that is not at war, a state where people are not physically displaced. Why are you asking for emergency officials to go and donate food and other relief materials? But what is going on in Kogi State is worse than being in a state of war. Because even in warfare, people still get fed, when they should. And even in war, it's not in all cases that you find every part of a country or every part of a community affected by war. But every part of Kogi is affected by hunger. And life has become so cheap in that state at this time. Crime has gone so high. In fact, Kogi State is like a glorified local government. You go to the state capital, it's the worst, Lokoja is the worst state capital in Nigeria today. Not that it had always been like that, because Bello came and was removing roundabouts. You would think that he had plans to make the roundabouts better, but he left the roundabouts worse than he made them. And generally, is doing his best to ensure that Kogi retains the number one position among the worst states in Nigeria. So if you cannot make a state better by providing infrastructure and the rest, and you can't pay salaries, then what are you doing as governor? What are you doing? Every day Kogi is in the news. When, for the wrong reasons, when we had the story of the director who committed suicide after his wife brought to bed triplets in an Abuja hospital, other stories came up of other people who had similarly committed suicide. There's a particular woman whose children gained admission, 2 of her kids gained admission to the university the same time. The woman dropped dead. There is a retired journalist who also was old for so many months, and he could not live with it. He suffered stroke and died. You know, suffered a stroke and died. So many people are losing their lives because they just don't get paid when they should be paid. If you are owing, if a governor goes before President Buhari and says that he's not owing salaries, but in the same sentence he goes on to say, I paid salaries up to date, but I'm actually left with September, August and September. That means you've contradicted yourself. And then your head of service, in responding to what happened to Soje, now told us that Soje was actually owed 10 months. We can tell who is lying between the two of you. We can tell. And now my vote will go to the governor. I'm asked to determine who lied. It has to be the governor. If you are owing just 2 months, the noise wouldn't be this loud. Because there are many other states who are owing salaries. Benue is owing salaries.
And it's not this bad.
Yes, but people don't scream about the dire situation in Benue as they are screaming about Kogi. So now you saw the resident comedian in the Senate. He knelt down and was begging the Senate president to please intervene in the matter of Kogi State. So when Dino Melaye knelt down, some of his colleagues were alerted to the need to do something. So they donated, about 40 of them donated 1,260 bags, but there are more than 9,000 civil servants in Kogi State who have not been paid. So how do you, 1,260, it's just not enough. It won't solve the problem in our state. And I think that as much as Dino could be said to have done the right thing by alerting the world to the problems in Kogi State, attempting to ridicule the civil servants is what I see him trying to do, because he's trying to politicize the whole thing. There is a gentleman from the PDP in the House of Reps, Sunday Karimi. Sunday Karimi brought up the same matter, but in a much more dignified manner that is that has nothing to do with drama. The way Dino has done, kneeling down and then trying to, I mean.
Maybe he's trying to show how dire the situation is, Adekune.
Nobody can deny the fact that the situation is bad. Everyone knows that. But as GJ has said, believe me, what the Senate is doing, or let me say what the senators, the group of senators, what they are doing, is not the right thing. They know the right thing because now it's politics. You want to politicize an already bad situation. If you want to help, you know, some of these governors, if you think back about the bailouts and bailouts and bailouts, you ask, what did you take all these bailouts for? It's mainly to, you know, pay salaries, you know, let the economy, you know, pick up one way or the other. But at the end of the day, the problems still persist. But the way the governor himself is handling the matter is even worse. The other day he went to the presidency, and when he came out and the way he spoke, I was totally, you know, angry that is this man, is it age problem or he just lacks the administrative acumen to handle crisis? You won't hold me 10 months salary and still be insulting me that asking you to pay me is I think he called them political civil servants. Yes. You don't do that. You seek their understanding. This is a problem. That are you suffering the same problems they are passing through? Obviously, it's not. So when you look at the way the governor is handling the problems, too bad. When you look at the way this group of senators, what they are doing, they are even worsening the problem. Because what should have happened should be, what can we do to help all the states that are having problems? The presidency has come out with something which is bailout. Now the bailout is not working. What can we really do?
All right, Martins.
Well, it's a very serious situation. But as Jide was talking, I see that it is part of the consequences of our focus in the media on federal government alone. Apart from TVC and a few organs, especially electronic, we in the print media have not been focusing on these 36 state governments and their atrocities, the atrocities of these state government, these state governors. You see, the other day when the president himself was asking these governors, including the governor of Kogi State, how do you sleep? It's the same rhetorical question here. How do these people sleep? When you are owing people 6 months, 7 months,
16 months,
16 months, 21 months.
Pensioners
too are dying, and nobody has declared disaster or emergency. Even those of us that are working, when sometimes they owe us 2-3 months, you know what it means. You will be restless. Even the president the other day was asking them, how do people pay rent? How do they eat? How do they pay school fees? And then we tie it to these issues. They got bailout, they got refund for Paris Club, whatever, and they still didn't pay. So what do they use the money for? So apart from this lamentation all the time, we should also call on senior citizens in various states to engage the governors, to get people, because they will tell you, you deserve the kind of government that you have. Look at Yahya Bello. Look at the kind of way he's talking, blasting people and all sorts of things like that. And he is governing a disaster zone, and we have the worst human index. Education is gone. Everything is gone. He's not doing any road from one place to the other. So what does he do with the money funds that he collects? I think it is high time senior citizens in the state began to ask questions. I said, Governor, what are you doing here? They should not keep quiet. Again, the party. I have been saying so, and I said so the other day when I came, the last time I came here, that it is not for a trite reason that political parties are mentioned in the Constitution as the recruiting agencies for public officers in Nigeria. That you can't be anything. So if a governor is behaving like this and is callous like this, and I believe that the political party leadership should also be involved in talking to the government, asking questions, and say, look, you are demonizing our you are doing this, you are doing that. And you are demarketing our party, and they should ask questions. They should not just be issuing statements or be doing some other things. These are issues. Democracy is about the people.
Because it's rubbing off on the party as well.
It's rubbing off on the party's image. Democracy is about the people. People are not paid. Well, where would they get money to feed? Apart from the people who are not paid. People who are not paid. There are some people too who depend on people salaries. Yes. People who sell. So you will see a list of debtors. Now, people who are buying on credit every day, believing that one day they will be paid, and you see economy of the state paralyzed. And this is a serious, and I believe that the leadership of this country, the leadership of a party in the state at the national level should engage the governor, because what is happening there is more than what is happening in Northeast.
Jide, why is there seeming some form of silence, like Martin has said, that the governor has to be engaged? Because from the look of things, the civil servants don't seem to be able to ask questions.
They can't help themselves.
He has succeeded in clobbering civil servants. The ridiculous governor issued a directive the other day that workers in state-owned tertiary institutions cannot join NLC, cannot unionize and all that. Things that run contrary to the letters of the Constitution. I don't even think Yabelo has ever read the Constitution to know what's in there, you know. So because you can't even be issuing the kind of directive, the kind of orders that is, you know, nobody should join NLC, nobody should do this. Why do you want to continue to run a state like an emperor?
All right, quickly.
Why do you want to continue to play God over our people in Kogi State?
We have Tunde on the line calling from London. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead with your contribution.
Hi, good evening to the panelists. And it's nice calling Nigeria for the first time in a few decades. You see, it's difficult to express my views on this. In fact, this is Nigeria should weep. Look, just going by what Babajide said, yes, people dying or whatever they're experiencing, nobody can mention it. But the gentleman Martin said one thing: the eyes of government are those in the print media. Those are the watchdogs. Those people are the ones that have their ear to the ground. They know what is happening. They do not expose what these guys are doing. Some of them, in my opinion, they give limited information to the masses for some unknown reason. Some of them will know, some of them we don't know. To cut the long story short, because I know that the time is limited. We have social society group or whatnot. They do not put pressure on the government. We have the judiciary. They do not come. There's somebody that can flag up something and say, guys, this is not right. What are they doing? The senators, they can pass a law in the country that can say, look here, any government that does not pay their workers for 1 week, we here in England we pay weekly or monthly. Imagine a month. You're talking about 2-3 months. These guys cannot eat. I'm a regular watcher of your show. A man watched his daughter die.
Thank you for your contribution, Tunde. Well, today you were making a point.
Yes. You asked the question, why is there so much silence? Because the people who should call Yabelo to order and draw his attention to the fact that he's been a failure as a governor, they were the people who brought him in the first place. And I say today that they should be ashamed of themselves. But the shame is overwhelming for them. They can't get to talk to him. They can't get to even say publicly that this governor has disappointed us. But it's an inner shame that they feel. Because the other day, one of them was saying, we made a mistake about Kogi State. All because you wanted to, in your view, in your warped view, you wanted to stop someone from extending his tentacles to the north. And then you sit in your closets and watch a man run a state, a man who was not prepared. In Nigeria, people spend money to attain elective positions. You want to become governor, you spend money. Yabelo had given up that he would become governor. He had joined another party. And some fellows in the APC who thought they were gods of men decided to go and bring him. And decided that someone who came second in an election that was concluded did not deserve to succeed the main candidate who died. You know, who died after all the results had come in. You know, because the results had come in. When they tell you it was an inconclusive election, it's the height of deceit. All the results are coming. The electoral officers, the resident returning officers from all the local governments in Kogi State were inside the hall where the results were being announced. So it's the height of deceit and a clear lack of fear of, fear of God to come and say that election was inconclusive. The results were in. All you needed to do was just announce. So they defrauded the people of Kogi State by saying, oh, the number of invalid votes was higher than, what was it called? That the invalid votes was higher than the number of people registered to vote. Registered voters in that locality. But they conveniently forgot that it is not everyone registered to vote that can vote in an election. It is only people with PVCs that can vote in an election. So they cheated us. When we got to Bayelsa State, this, just a few months after, the same scenario played out. But in Bayelsa, nobody ordered a rerun on account of some invalid votes and all that. Nobody ordered a rerun. In Benue State, where the former Senate President, David Mark, won an election narrowly, there were invalid votes. The same scenario in Kogi State was what happened. It was what played out in Benue. Nobody ordered a rerun. David Mark coasted home to victory. But some fellows who felt that they needed to just cheat us in Kogi State and impose someone who was not prepared for the job, who was not qualified for the job, who is not competent to hold that position. They wanted to impose him on us. Now they've had their way. But wherever they are, and I'm wondering how they sleep too. It's not enough for the president to say that how do people sleep. In Kogi State, when the president imagines what is going on in Kogi State, and he remembers that his own people in the presidency imposed Yaya on the people of Kogi State, I wonder how President Buhari sleeps.
All right, I come to you, articulate. The more the silence, the dire the situation, and the nation of items can do little or nothing because people need money to do whatever they need to do on a daily basis. How do we resolve this whole issue?
I think it is a clear indication that the current system we're on can never help Nigeria. Because when you blame Yaya Bello, you also blame the system. Believe me, many of the states are not viable. And why? Everybody knows the truth. So you go to the last allocation, I look at what was shared in, September. Kogi State got 4.2 billion. There are states like Osun that got 1-point-something billion. Osun is still owing as well. You can go from one state to another. Most of Nigerian states are owing. What we need to do, we should just stop playing the ostrich. We have a problem. It's beyond Kogi. It's a national crisis. We need to evolve a system whereby anybody that wants to govern a state will be ready to, till the land. You will be able to, work yourself to generate funds for yourself, and whatever we need to do, let's make it happen. Going to Abuja every month, depending on Abuja to run a state can never help Nigeria. It's so clear now. Of course, it is time for Kogi, but there are other states that are also very bad. And the Kogi, why it is worse is just because of most of what Jide has said. Because the governor, the guy there wasn't prepared for to be governor. But he's not the governor of the state. But what we need to do truly is, whether you like to call it true federalism, fiscal federalism, restructuring, or you will call it devolution of power, whatever will help these states. Believe me, the era of going to Abuja should stop.
What should we do about the states?
What we should do about the state is we should evolve a system whereby each state governor will generate its own fund.
Even that, they won't be able to do that.
Immediately. So we're talking
At
about
a point, you will see many of them
solution.
that will not.
Some people are still asking for more states. When
Yeah,
even these states
are not viable.
You know,
Yes.
you know the issue is complex. And
All right. Quickly, we have a caller on the line from Kogi State. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, I sympathize with my brother, Mr. Babajide. You know, what happened in Kogi State is a daylight armed robbery. Because Yaya Bello has not participated in the process. He has not gone to the grassroots. He never knew any part of the Kogi State apart from his own domain. He has not known how people have been feeling. He doesn't know how we suffered the victory for APC only to impose Yaya Bello on the people of Kogi State. It's a very terrible situation in Kogi State here. I am very surprised when we had that's an issue or the incident that took late Audu away. You know, what is happening in Kogi State today, I believe that if it is Faleke, it couldn't have been like this because Faleke was on ground. He knows how people feel it. There is a place, one local government in Basa we went. Audu was tearing tears. He said, is it the place? Is it since I left government house? This place has not been touched again. He was weeping when we were in Basa local government campaigning. You know, if Yaya Bello was part of the process, he could have known how people have been suffering. He just got this thing on the platter of gold. He came to rob us. He came to steal our resources, and he continued to do it. We know who the people behind it, and they will never go scot-free.
Thank you, Dauda, for your contribution.
You know, this, whatever everybody is saying, reinforces what I have been writing recently, even in my column quoting Obama, that elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. You can see the person that we elected in Kogi State. I'm a stakeholder in Kogi State. I will disclose that one later. It's not about this. It's a national crisis. You know, we're talking about institutions that we are holding responsible. There's a state assembly there. You know, you see all these state assemblies, you know what they are to governors. They cannot do anything. But they are a very important institution of democracy. And what is happening now makes us to lose the majesty of democracy that we talk about all the time when you have state assemblies that cannot work. It is the state assembly that can even say, look, this governor, you cannot do this. Let us even remove this. They have the power under the law to remove the governor. But can they do anything? No. They can't. He's
been sending talks to beat them up.
To beat them up. They can't do anything. So I believe that this thing has happened. And I still believe that we should not discount what he is saying about the consequences of what we feel now all over the place, that these states are not viable. And this is a message to even the leadership about this country, that whatever they are talking about, devolution of powers, getting them to be able to exploit certain natural resources in the state, that the land use decree and other laws will not allow them, exclusive legislative lists will not allow them, bitumen in Ondo State that is also owing, Mimiko was owing 7 months before he left. We have bitumen there, he could not exploit it. Federal government is not doing anything about it. Gold in Osun State. So many natural resources, what of Plateau State and all that. There are certain things that they should pay attention to so that these state governors can exploit something. Lagos State is doing something with Kebbi State. They are doing some
those, I think,
very
are long
serious
term.
issues like
in the long term.
Do you think
but we need in the short term,
immediately. Are enough to make those states viable?
Well, definitely, they will go a long way. It's a little
Let's
things
open
here
up
and
the
there. Let's
system.
open up.
We don't need as many
about
states.
This
the truth
Kogi
we are not telling ourselves, we don't
believe
need as many states as we have.
First and foremost, under the law,
America as big as it is.
It will be very difficult to collapse.
We need to hear what
the state assembly should wake up from their slumber. The state assembly members should do something about the recklessness, about the callousness, about wickedness of the governor. That governor, why are you not doing this? You collected this, you collected this. They should use data to do some deliberations and even send a strong message to the governor that we are the state assembly members. This is a very important institution of democracy. That is the only way we can give merit to the majesty of democracy in Nigeria.
Unfortunately, assemblies in Nigeria, look, state assemblies in Nigeria are not primed to do what you are talking about. Even we know when
one state assembly even said recently that they are happy to be called appendages of the government.
So you know when Yabelo came into office, the PDP controlled the House of Assembly in Kogi. What happened? They will bribe those guys, greedy people. They will bribe them. They will cross to the opposition. So when they cross to the opposition, then the governor will buy them. If the governor identifies, and it's not the only one, remember even during the time of the short man who was governor in those states, Shomole, they even set ablaze assembly complex. Governors fight tooth and nail just to ensure that it's their own people who become speaker. If there's someone who is asking questions, who is a speaker who is asking questions, they would do everything to make sure that they remove him. And then so the present arrangement just cannot work. You look at state government, you have a state, the bulk of your what you take from FAC gets spent on salaries. And you have an over-bloated bureaucracy. You are refusing to do anything about it, and you want the problem to be solved. I've said it repeatedly that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu right-sized the Lagos civil service. People had to go. And he did it during his first term. He took a risk. Some other people will not take that risk because they will think that they won't get a second term. So, but as long as you fail to do what is right, and because of politics, you are scared to take the big decisions, you will not solve these problems. We have 36 states in Nigeria. 36 states for a country like Nigeria is just too much. America is bigger than the whole of West Africa. Yes. America has only 50 states. What are we talking about? What do we need 36 states for? 36 states that are largely unviable.
Civil service states.
That cannot fund themselves. Today, a decree is made that nobody should go to Abuja to take their usual handout. As we speak now, they were in Abuja yesterday. They've gone to collect the money. If they take that decision that nobody should come to Abuja to collect that FAC money, honestly, you can't run some of those states beyond 2 weeks.
Will collapse.
Serious situation there. Well, after this break, Presidency accuses the PDP of bringing Maina to Nigeria, but Maina's family insists Buhari administration sent for him. Stay with us. The cloud of confusion hovering above Abdulrasheed Maina's reinstatement into the civil service is far from thinning out. The episodic melodrama is fast becoming ridiculous. The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says Maina was reinstated in public interest. But the senior special assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, is accusing the People's Democratic Party of bringing back the same man Malami has been fighting tooth and nail to defend into the country. Garba Shehu describes Maina as a monster. But as Garba Shehu makes his accusation, Maina's family claims that their son returned to the country on the invitation of the Buhari administration. What is going on here, Martins?
What is going on? You know, this thing, I think it was discussed here exhaustively yesterday, but it is it's also a monster that will not go away like that. It is story. Because this story in a parliamentary system, in a democracy, is capable of bringing down the government. This story is a terrible story, and I am what what Malam Garba Shehu, a professional that I know very well, is unfortunate. I think that this remark is more serious than this one, blaming it on another administration. The administration is talking about, they didn't bring him back to the country. We're talking about institutions that are responsible. We should be talking about that and not about another party that left. They've been in power for more than 2.5 years now. And then we are talking about this. We're talking about what happened with the Federal Civil Service Commission that has no chairman as we speak. I've been talking about this one here. Dickiness Juan Ayo retired about 5 months ago. And she has not been replaced as chairman of the Federal Civil Service Commission, where the letter began from. The letter that Attorney General wrote was written to the Federal Civil Service Commission that has responsibility for recruitment, promotion, and discipline of civil servants up to directorate level. And then in conjunction with head of service, what happened there? We are talking about the circumstances that led to the Attorney General of the Federation, who should be prosecuting, was written a letter. They say, oh, there were judgments. What happened to the judgment that they got that was not appealed? So these are questions that the administration should be seeking answers to. And of course, this disaster has happened. It's a public relations tragedy. And I think instead of reading from the book of lamentation all the time, I believe that there are specific things that should be done. This guy is a monster, but he can be useful. He can be useful to unraveling the monster. Also, that is in the civil service. Corruption. Bigger monster. This guy is not a fool. He was a chief in an agency that is responsible for the management of pensions for customs, immigration, and prisons service when they brought him because of his efficiency to come and do something. And then he dealt with heads of service that have left the service now, that were managing this issue. He dealt with Stephen Oronsaye is alive. He dealt with Dakpo, Afolabi, Professor Dakpo Afolabi. He also dealt with other heads of service when they were there. And he was saying, and he has been saying something, he has put some information that should be distilled very well, that look, at my level, I was not signing any check. I didn't have any budget. They brought in so many people from different institutions, 15 from EFCC, 15 from ICPC, they had 4 from SSS. This one, they had a number of agencies that were managing that committee that he headed. He had said a number of things. So there are some questions that should be unraveled, and he's useful to answering those things. He couldn't have acted alone. Yes, he couldn't have acted alone. Questions about, at the time he was heading this committee, they did not fail to pay pensioners, but they had enough money. I have found out that at the time he was heading this committee, they actually needed, as they were told that they needed 4.5 billion naira only to pay pensioners. But they were getting about 20 billion. How? Who budgeted for this? These were questions that should be asked. Who budgeted for this? How did they get this from the budget office? Through the office of the Accountant General of the Federation. The Accountant General of the Federation at that time, who will also be useful, is the governor of Gombe State today, Alhaji Ibrahim Dankwabo. What's that? Accountant General of the Federation at that time. There are so many officers that are alive who can be useful. So they should not scare this guy away. They should not just say he should go. They should not just say they have sacked him. It's useful to unraveling the monster of official corruption.
Jide, I need you to step in now. What do you make of Garba Shehu's accusation? I mean, the PDP is not in power. They couldn't have, I mean, where is this coming from?
Even sacked him.
That was a shameless remark. That was a shameless remark. And I hate it when people that I've known over the years, and I'm compelled to talk about them in this way because I'm not an hypocrite. If you are my friend and I can see clearly that you goofed, and Veronica asked me a question about how I feel about what you said, I will speak from the bottom of my heart. That was a shameless statement by Garba Shehu. And I'm sure in his heart of hearts he knows it, because he's a senior journalist seasoned journalists who should know that, look, this is beyond just demonizing the PDP. We can't make a career out of always abusing the PDP, accusing the PDP of this, accusing the PDP of that. A party that has already left the scene.
You defeated them.
You see, they left the scene. And people will remember that under the PDP, this man was chased away. But now we can see that under President Buhari's regime, the Attorney General wrote a letter saying, look, this guy, saying the Federal Civil Service Commission, which by virtue of Section 153 is empowered to take that kind of decision. He said, now, obey the judgments of the courts. And they decided to bring this guy in. It wasn't the Okene man who used to be Attorney General of Nigeria, Adoke, that wrote this letter now.
No.
It is Abubakar Malami, who is a key figure in this government, that wrote this letter. So how do you now begin to ascribe what happened to PDP, that some elements in the PDP were the people who brought this man back? You can't talk like this, otherwise Nigerians will stop taking you seriously. You see, I don't know what afflicts our people, journalists, when they take up political positions. The fastest way to destroy a journalist is to give him a political position. You know, and that's why some of us, look, whatever will happen, we will never work with politicians. And I'm saying it publicly. Yeah. Whatever will happen, we will never work with politicians, because they will diminish you, they will destroy you. By the time you step out of the vortex of power, you've lost all the relevance, the honor that you built over the years, you will have lost. Because the Garba Shehu that I used to know would never have spoken like that. I'm telling you, because this is a man that I've known since the 90s. The Garba Shehu that I used to know would never have spoken like that. That is what working for government does to you as a journalist.
But he can't speak against this government, though.
No, it's not. No, nobody is saying speak against the government. But there are ways by which you can get the message across. I can abuse the PDP for trying to take advantage of an unfortunate situation, but not to say that, look, they are the ones who sneak this man back in. But you can't do that. No. You see, when we fail to handle a situation the right way, things degenerate. So even this one, if they do not manage it properly, it will degenerate, and the blowback will be very bad for the government. And so if you work for the government, you should not be creating controversies for that government. That was how we said the other day that the PDP administration didn't reclaim territories in the Northeast until Buhari came, which is a lie from the pit of hell. And anybody who can read Google will see the dates that those big towns, Monguno, the Garrison town, Mafa, Dikwa, all of them, the days they were reclaimed. They were reclaimed before March 2015, in most cases, before the end of March. You can't be doing that. Yes, give credit to your administration, the administration that pays your bills, but you should not try to demonize another party, because at the end of the day, Nigerians will say, what is he saying again? So let's just stick to what is happening. I agree with him that Maina is still useful to our country, and I disagree that he's a monster. Wait until somebody is convicted. I don't know why Nigerians rush to judge people. I've seen people accused of stealing billions in this country that the courts cleared, and the EFCC lacked the guts to even appeal the judgment. So wait until someone has been convicted before you now be saying, oh, he's a monster, is this, he stole billions. I saw a publication by a newspaper that Maina stole 100 billion. Why? I don't know what's wrong with our people. 100 billion? If you steal 100 billion, you still want to come to this country?
For what?
To do what? If you have all that money, what will you come to Nigeria to do?
I think you've been trying to, cut in.
Yeah, when you look at this, when you look at the whole story, right from then and now, I think it's just, to put it mildly, it's just a failure of journalism in Nigeria. Because in this kind of issue, we have more confusion than the reality. Nobody can come on here and say, this is the whole truth. We add more to the problems instead of being the ones, helping to resolve the problems with information. The minor thing, if this government didn't handle it very well, it's going to do more collateral damage to this administration. I know it has done. What I've always respected the Alhaji Garba Shehu, but I have always known that it can never be a successful, image maker. There was one incident that I keep in my mind, and I will continue to do so. He used to be with Vice President, the former Vice President. There was a story we did in TED that time, Atiku Abubakar, the beginning of the end. I anchored the cover story. And on Monday, this man called. I was so sure that Atiku would take over from Obasanjo, and you guys, you will be the first we will handle when we get there. He was so critical of what we did and all that. You see, I said, how can an image maker be talking like this? Even if you disagree with some of the issues in the report, why don't you come up with, your own side and educate them that, oh, it's actually not what you think. You can actually have this. You can actually look at this. When you see what he has been doing under Buhari, you will never believe that such a brilliant and successful journalist will be a disaster in this public office. I'm so thoroughly disappointed. Thoroughly.
So how do you think that this present government should go about handling this case? You've talked about asking questions. What else should, be put in place such that there can be seen to be some level of credibility and the corruption that we say we are trying to fight? We are really fighting that corruption.
I've been advocating this. You see, fighting corruption, you cannot fight this corruption successfully without touching the civil service. This is what, again, has reinforced that argument that you have to touch the civil service, you have to reorganize the civil service, because once you are trying people, you arrest this one here, you do some media trial there, some people are perpetrating others.
Yes, sir.
Without reorganizing the civil service. Because the civil service worked in this country before now. What was it? What were they using? They were using general order, they were using civil service rule, financial instruction, and what have you. But they had good permanent secretaries who will say, Mr. Honorable Minister, your proposal is not in the budget. End of story. You cannot do that. Now they have to reorganize this. The present administration, the president, has to reorganize the civil service in such a way that it will be impossible for one officer to just sign off our own future like that. The way they just sign money, no control. One assistant director can just hold a committee and they bring people, civil servant, they have auditor general's representatives there, accountant general's representatives there, SSS representatives there.
We have Samuel on the line from Oyo State. Are you there? Samuel, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, please advise Mr. Garuba to stop talking. Let Femi Adesina do the talking. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Really agree?
Yes, I believe that it is not about, that one, we can even digress a little to talk about that one. I said so elsewhere recently that, those of us who are crossing over, that is from journalism to public relations, we need to get some training about crisis management. Yeah. We need to get some training about image making. Journalism and public relations are not the same thing. And if we are crossing over, it's part of the problems of our training institutions that we do not have models where people can get training. Managing reputation is a model. It's a kind of discipline.
Martins, I don't even think that journalists are the best image makers. I don't even think journalists
are the best. That's what I mean, that we should get training.
People always think that, okay, let's get the journalists. I don't think that journalists are the best.
We cannot be image makers.
From the experience that we have seen over the years, honestly, journalists
are
the best for this position.
I have been a member of National Association of Black Journalists in the U.S. When we go for convention, we go for skills acquisition, capacity building. So they advise journalists who want to cross over to public relations to go to certain institutions for training.
Must be trained.
You must be trained, because speaking for people You have been writing stories about people suddenly.
You create more problems.
Crisis management is,
rather than solve them.
a module even in business school. Communications marketing. It is
we
marketing
have a call
communication
on the line
or
from
whatever.
Kogi State. Are you there?
It's a module.
It's okay.
Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm holding on, yes.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, so I'm saying is our problem in Kogi State is a very peculiar one. And as a matter of honesty, I don't want to blame Yaya Bello or whoever is perpetrating our problem. I am blaming the presidency. Would they say that they are not aware of what is happening to us in the state? Kogi is the nearest state to Abuja. They are aware of what is happening, and I am surprised that the integrity in Abuja is keeping quiet to what is happening to us. Honestly.
All right, thank you, AIO, for your contribution. Gentlemen, we need your final takes on the topics we have discussed so far because we're running out of time. So I'll start with you. Adekunle.
Mr. President should just get to the bottom of this. Thank God the Attorney General has promised that he will talk. But the President should just get to the bottom of this. And as he said, let's reorganize the civil service.
And I believe that even those who are found guilty or officers that should be punished. They shouldn't just allow them to go scot-free. People who initiated all these things knowing that this is not right. And look at how it has brought government to this level. And I think officers that have done this one, even without clearing, without seeking information, without seeking knowledge of what to be done, should be punished for others to follow. And it is part of the reorganization of the civil service I'm talking about. When people do something that is wrong, they should be punished. If, as I quoted Shakespeare here before, any mercy that forgives a murderer encourages murder.
All right, Judy.
Well, I think that the matter will not disappear quickly, but how the image makers and the presidency conduct themselves will determine when and how this problem is solved. I don't think that the kind of comments from Garba Shehu are needed at this time. Definitely mistakes have been made, but those mistakes should not be compounded by comments that are at best reckless. And I think that we must find a way to still look at the civil service, the endemic corruption in the civil service. When Mena was doing his work, the police pensions office was receiving 1.5 billion every month, whereas all it needed was a little over 400 million. The remainder was being stolen, was being shared among thieves in the civil service. So we still need to look at the civil service and block avenues through which the resources of our country are leaking. And wherever we can find people who can do a diligent job of unmasking the thieves in the civil service, of chasing away the greedy palmsecs. Some of them have houses in Dubai and other places. The controllers of works, controllers of this and that, who have looted our country dry. We always blame politicians, but the bigger thieves are among the civil servants. One civil servant kept 4 billion naira in his house. One civil servant from Kogi State among the pension thieves, 4 billion naira cash. And we are in a country now that everyone can see that we are broke. We are broke because of excessive corruption. Something has to be done about that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show today. That's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another interesting episode of the program. Watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I am Veronica Danik Boy. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.